Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yes, indeed. The gang is all here. Welcome to the first full weekend in the month of August. And maybe more importantly, we're finally through our long national nightmare of a lack of NASCAR and IndyCar racing.
Maybe.
Why did I think you were going somewhere else with that? When you said that, I went, uh-oh.
Trust me, we got a whole lot of other nightmares here in this country that we got to deal with. But, you know, hey, at least NASCAR and IndyCar are back. So one step at a time, okay?
Yep.
We can only solve so many problems here on this show.
That's right.
I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. John Myers here. Happy birthday to me come Monday.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And about a week later, happy birthday to the producer, John Myers.
Yes.
It is birthday month here on this show for two-thirds of us anyway.
Mm-hmm. And your birthday gift comes next weekend.
That's true. So I was going to say this a little bit later, but let's go ahead and do it. A little bit of a preview.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, really. A little bit of a preview. Matt and John will be in studio, God willing.
And the creek don't rise.
Yeah.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yep.
I, again, along with my beautiful bride, will be motoring towards Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where I have seen the track and was even lucky enough to stay in the motel that is now no longer in existence, called Speedway Motel, which used to be right under the grandstands of turn number 2. They've demolished it since then. It's a bad call on my part, if you ask me. But anyway, but they weren't racing that weekend. We were out there in 1996 for a friend of mine who was a big guy, big into the whole Chrysler scene. So we were out there for the Mopar Nationals. This time around, I get to go for the racing.
Woo!
Yep. Our friends have...
Lucky dog.
Yeah, our friends who work for the company, one of the companies that sponsors driver Michael Lynette. Mm-hmm. They have a location in Indianapolis, and they do this every year. They kind of as an employee thing, they get a whole bunch of tickets and send the employees that want to go to Indianapolis, and our friends grabbed a couple of extra tickets, so we're all going to be headed out there. I'll get to see the doubleheader Xfinity and IndyCar races next Saturday, and on Sunday we'll be there for the Cup Series race as well. And that means that...
And you're taking your wife and not me.
I know. I'm taking my wife, not you. I'm taking my wife and not Matt.
Well, next month awaits.
Yeah.
So,
you know, and Matt's done a couple of trips without me, so, you know, this is payback to Matt.
hey, it's all good.
So, yeah, looking forward to it and getting to spend some time with some really good friends of ours that moved up to Iowa several years ago. We get the chance to see them only really a couple of times a year, so this is a really good excuse to drive 8 hours north and go see them. And I get some racing in. Not a bad thing.
You're taking one for the team.
That's right.
Just like I've took one for the team 5 times this year.
Right here in the heart, man. The one that I just got fixed 8 weeks ago. Anyway, so yeah, that's next week. But I'll be on the show. I'll just be doing it by phone.
Yes.
That's it. And for those of you that will be watching on YouTube, John's figured that out too. We'll save that as a surprise. Coming up a little bit later on the show. If you're longtime listeners to the show, you know that this isn't our main job. We all have other jobs. And as it turns out, John and I now work at the same place as master control operators for a TV station group out of Birmingham. In the midnight hour tomorrow night, Sunday night, on Channel 68, there's a couple of sports-related shows. One of them is a top 10 list, and in this case, it was top 10 sports families. And I thought, okay, this could be kind of interesting. And it started off promising. Started off with the racing family. Not necessarily maybe the one that you would have thought. The Hill family, Graham and Damon Hill. Graham Hill is the only one to have pulled off the triple header of winning Monaco, the Indy 500, and the 24 Hours Le Mans. And his son, Damon. Later on down the line, they came up with one more racing family.
Just one?
Just one. They came up with the Earnhardts, Dale and Dale Jr. And that got me to thinking, first of all, if Matt and I were to do a racing family list, would we include the Earnhardts and the Hills, number one? And number two, would we include them in that order?
I'm going to say probably and not necessarily.
So coming up towards the end of the show, we each have our top 10 list of our best racing family, regardless of racing series, our top 10 racing families. Mm-hmm. And we even came up with some honorable mentions that just missed the list. And we'll have some reason as to why we put them in the order that we put them in. Something to look forward to later.
Yay.
Meantime, let's take a look back last week with the Olympics break in most of the racing world. Only 2 events took place last weekend. NHRA event will come shortly. First, overseas to Hungary, where Formula One ran their last race before they break themselves. This is the non-Olympics always here. We're going to break for the entire month of August break. A light rain fell as race time drew near. The teams, all of them, chose to put the drivers on intermediate wet tires. These are not the full wet tires. These are intermediate wet tires. This means that the grooves to remove the standing water, they not cut as deep into the tires.
Right.
Yeah, that worked out about as well as you would have figured. The normal chaos that happens going into the first turn or two from a standing start in Formula One got amped up to 11, to borrow Spinal Tap's call. Look it up, kids. Ask your grandparents. Kids. Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas were on the front row. Hamilton got away off the start free and clear. Bottas, on the other hand, struggled. By the time they got to the first turn, he was already back in 8th. And from there, mayhem. Bottas locked up his brakes going into turn 1. He took out Lando Norris, who took out Sergio Perez, who hit Max Verstappen, causing Lance Stroll to lock up the brakes too, hitting Charles Leclerc, who in turn spun out Daniel Ricciardo. You want me to go over that again? No. It's too early.
Yeah.
Did you watch that live?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Me too.
I did.
Wow. They threw a red flag, as one would figure, and got all that stuff cleared up. When they got it cleared up, they found out that Bottas, Perez, Norris, Stroll, and Leclerc could not continue. They were all out of the race, way too much damage to continue. Meantime, red flag, we're kind of familiar with that here in the NASCAR world or the Indycar world. By rule, can't work on the cars. FIA officials relented in this case and said so many cars had suffered damage that while they were cleaning up, they were going to allow the teams to work on their cars. So, teams like Max Verstappen's, suffering damage but could still effectively race, got to effect repairs while the track was being cleaned. Thing about this is that Mercedes had a rare moment of misjudgment. They weren't paying attention to the weather in addition to making sure that the car was good. And the thing about it is, again, Lewis Hamilton's car was great. They really didn't have to do anything to Lewis Hamilton's car. So I don't know what they were looking at, but whatever it was not the sky and it was not the radar.
Nope.
They kept Hamilton on the intermediate wet tires. Almost all the other teams, while they're effecting repairs, switched over to race slicks on the restart because they realized the rain and the light rain and the drizzle and all that was gone and the sun came out and the track was drying. Upon the restart of the race, Hamilton quickly realized he's not in a good position. He was forced to pit, dropped into the back of the pack. 15th. Okay. Caused Mercedes to begin to game plan the rest of the race. Meantime, out front is Alpine. Yes, I said that. Alpine, former Renault driver Esteban Ocon, and trailing him, Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel. They took off from the pack and became a two-man battle out front. Ocon ended up leading the majority of the 70 laps, holding off multiple charges from Vettel, and it was an impressive hold-off, by the way, because Vettel, in some cases, Sebastian Vettel had the better car.
Yeah.
Esteban
He really
Ocon
did.
just game planned it better.
Yeah. That's really the case. I mean, Ocon by no means was definitely not the fastest car. I saw a graphic. I can't remember who shared it. Who had the fastest laps of the race?
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't the fastest lap of the race. It was the slowest. No, I forgot how it was worded, but it was a ranking of how they turned their own respective lap.
Yeah.
Quickest lap of the race. Ocon was like 8th. Was in the 120s. Some other cars was in the 118s.
Yeah.
But he just had his position just quick enough and just in a place enough to where he could hold everybody off.
Yeah. And he did it very, very well. Congratulations, Esteban Ocon, who ends up grabbing the win. His first in Formula One, and in fact, his first win in any single-seat racer since 2015, back when he was racing Formula 2. Ocon wins. Vettel second. A hard charge by Lewis Hamilton. You were talking about fast laps. Lewis Hamilton kept getting the fast lap of the race over and over and over and over and over again. At one point in time, he was down in the low 118s, maybe a high 117, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I mean, he just kept clicking him off. And after going back again and being at the tail end of the field 15th, he worked his way up through and finishes third on the day. Nice run by him. Carlos Sainz unofficially, I should say that, fourth, trailed by Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda. Then the Williams pair. Hello. Nicholas Latifi, George Russell. Then Max Verstappen, who could do no better than ninth. Kimi Räikkönen finishes 10th. I said that was unofficial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Seems that the official results slightly different because race officials ended up disqualifying former second place finisher Sebastian Vettel for what they're terming fuel infringement. Oh, we're going to get back to this. They said that they couldn't get a large enough sample from his fuel cell to ensure that there was nothing illegal that had been added to the fuel before the race to help him out. So everybody else moves up one slot. Hamilton now officially second place. Boom, 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 all the way down. And Daniel Ricciardo moves up from 11th into the top 10 and gets a championship point. So with the updated points, going back to the British Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton has overcome a big deficit to now lead Max Verstappen only 2 races later. Officially now 195 to 187 points. Lando Norris sits third back at 113. 108 points for Valtteri Bottas, 104 for Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz in next at 83. Charles Leclerc with 80. 50 for Pierre Gasly. He's tied with Daniel Ricciardo. And with the win, Esteban Ocon jumps up into the top 10 in points, now officially with 39. Mercedes also retakes the Constructors' Cup lead, 303 points to Red Bull's 291. Then you got a tie, of all things, between Ferrari and McLaren at 163. Alpine next with a good couple of top 10s, including the win. They've got 77 now. AlphaTauri's got 68, Aston Martin's 48. Williams picked up 10 points in Hungary, so not only did they break their scoreless streak, but they leapfrogged Alfa Romeo, who continues in that second-to-last spot with 3. So, yes, the lone scoreless team on the year 2021 is the American-based Haas F1. And I don't necessarily foresee that changing unless we get another race like this with even more attrition.
I was about to say, unless we have another race where a Mercedes decides to play pinball and take everybody out.
Yeah, but I will say this. For a while, after everything had been shaken out and people had done pit stops and everything like that, running in the top 10 was Mick Schumacher.
He was.
And Mick Schumacher was ahead for a short time of drivers like Max Verstappen, Kimi Räikkönen. I mean, we're talking veterans, winners in Formula One. And Mick Schumacher was doing more than holding his own.
Oh, yeah.
I got to give him credit. I wish I could give the same credit to the Haas F1 guys. They gave him probably the best ride that they could possibly give him under their circumstances, and Mick did everything that he could with it.
Mm-hmm.
It just turns out that the car is not good enough.
No.
Plain and simple. The car is simply not good enough.
Not at all.
But if Haas F1's efforts, as they're claiming they are, going towards 2022, if they pay off, Mick Schumacher just showed what he's capable of.
He did.
Don't let that kid go.
No.
To your detriment. Don't let that kid go. If you can keep that kid under contract, Haas F1, do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way we can put it.
Absolutely.
From there, we go to the long-delayed Lucas Oil NHRA Winter Nationals. I know it sounds weird to say that in August, but you got to remember this is California. They were supposed to get this thing underway in late February, but no, it's California. Anyway, they finally ran last weekend. We begin our review per usual when we talk about the Camping World Drag Racing Series with Top Fuel, where Justin Ashley took on Leah Pruitt. Yeah, no Steve Torrance. Go figure. They met up in the finals. Ashley comes in 3-2 all-time against Pruitt. This was the first time they would have met up in the finals. I say would have. Turns out Ashley could not answer the bell. We'll tell you why later. So Pruitt, in the final round, gets a single run. She does it, well, leisurely because she could. She posted a 4.021 ET at 247.61 miles per hour to claim her first win of the season. 9th career win. This is her first win since 2019. Yes, her fiance, Tony Stewart, happened to be on hand to witness the win. Turned out he also had gotten in her car, and, well, he was trying to learn more about Top Fuel dragsters. Mm-hmm. I get the funny feeling Tony's going to end up trying this in competition at some point in time, even if it's just one time.
Yeah.
All signs continue to point to that.
I see it coming, too.
Mm-hmm. J.R. Todd, Ron Capps paired off in funny car. Todd claimed the quicker reaction time, but Capps had the power. Capps led just past the Christmas tree, rolls onto the win, 4.151 ET, 297.75 miles per hour. Marks his first win of 2021, but 67th of his career. Do keep in mind, one of those 67 is a Top Fuel win, so 66 coming in funny car. Pro Stock Finals, Greg Anderson took on Aaron Stanfield. Stanfield's stellar reaction time launches him to the win. He gunned his racer to a 6.652 ET, 207.69 miles per hour. It's actually his second win in a row, third of 2021, and fourth of his career. I like how that just rolls on. Mm-hmm. And then Angel Sampé and Matt Smith face off against each other in the Pro Stock Motorcycle Finals. Sampé, asleep at the light, and Smith had all the opening that he needed. He gets the win, 6.828 ET, 199.52 miles per hour. Can't get much closer to breaking 200 miles per hour, let's face it. That's his fourth win of 2021, 30th of his career, all of them coming in Pro Stock Motorcycle. Quick rundown of the points here before we take a break. Steve Torrance still leads the Top Fuel points. I know that's a shock. 313, yes, 313 points over second place Antron Brown. We'll just flip down to fifth. That's Sean Langdon. He's down by I need a Hubble telescope to see Steve Torrance, 500 points. Ron Capps took over the funny car points. He's up 5 points on Bob Tasca the third. John Force 36 down, 37 back Robert Height. Matt Hagan sits in fifth, only 45 points back. Needless to say, this is the closest points race of the Camping World Drag Racing Series. Greg Anderson has now officially clinched his spot in the Pro Stock Car Division's countdown to the championship. He's up 126 points on Aaron Stanfield. We'll just flip to fifth. Dallas Glenn sits fifth there. He trails by 311 points. He needs just binoculars, not the telescope. Matt Smith also clinched his countdown to the championship slot. Yes, he sits a comfortable 262 points ahead of second place Steve Johnson. From there, it's actually pretty tight. From 262 all the way back to fifth place Ryan Ayler, he trails by 372. He needs a microscope. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll tell you about this weekend's slate of events. And, yeah, it's actually relatively busy, all things being equal. Stay close. We'll be right back. We're just underway here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
This report is service of the Area Agency on Aging. Many older Alabamians have to choose between buying food, medicine, or other necessities. If you or someone you know struggles to pay for groceries, help may be available.
I just wasn't prepared to do it going into the break.
I didn't think so. To find out more.
But I also knew what time it was, so I figured it was.
I can't refuse it. 1-800-243-5463.
I got two trains
Okay.
It's a food stamp program.
It looks good.
But
Matt's lag about half a second.
audio and video off.
It's because I'm going to the front bay instead of the back.
Oh, okay.
So there's no way around it. I didn't have a camera until I put it in the front. It's a USB. That it's not strong enough to handle 3 USB cams.
So we need an assistant. Something more powerful.
Yes and no.
That may not solve all of our problems. So
No, it won't. I would like to try maybe a powered hub. Basically supplies power to the device.
price it out.
I think about $30.
If that's all that it is, let me know. I think we can do it.
That's the only thing I can think of trying.
Well, I mean, if it would take the onus off of the computer,
You know, it's,
or a good slice of the majority off the onus of the computer.
On the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Before we get back into the action, do want to ask you about your house. Because let's face it, probably the biggest investment you're ever going to make in your life. I say probably because you never know. Maybe you decide later on, sell the house and get a really nice RV. But either way, while you have your house, you want to make sure it's in as good a shape as possible. And I'm talking about the foundation. Because if the foundation's going, at that point in time, you're really in a whole lot of trouble. Don't let it happen. Find out for sure. As you're going around the house, you're gardening, you're mowing the yard, you're chopping down a tree, whatever it is that you happens to make you outside. Maybe you're just playing catch with a kid. And you've happened to notice that there are cracks in the brick, the basement walls on the inside, or the sheetrock on the inside of your house. If you've had problems opening or closing your doors, or worse, uneven floors. Maybe you've noticed water standing in the basement or crawl space, or just damp floors. Now, none of these are guarantees. None of these are 100% certainties that you've got a foundation problem, but they're signs that maybe the foundation has a problem, and you want to make sure that it is not the foundation that's caused that stuff. How do you do that? You call our friend Michael Hart at Ox Foundation Solutions. It's very, very simple. If you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, you give him a call at 205-362-6419, or you email him, Mike at oxfoundations.com. He'll come out. He will check out the house on the inside and out, double check with you, write it all down, whatever it may be, and hand you, at no obligation to you and at no cost to you, a written foundation assessment. And at that point in time, you figure out what to do next. Well, here's the fun part about it. Michael's a very honest guy. All three of us know Michael Hart here on this show. And we can tell you right now, he's going to be straight up with you. If there's no problem, you shake hands and you walk away. That's it. But if you got a problem, he's going to detail it. He's going to tell you exactly what's wrong. He's going to tell you what the fix is that needs to be done exactly. And he's going to give you a rock-solid estimate on how much it's going to cost to fix it. And then there's a trick. We'll give you an extra 15% off if you tell him you heard about it right here on the Championship Racing Network and you mention the promo code WEST. Not a bad deal if you have a problem. So again, anywhere in the state of Alabama, have him come out, take a look, make sure that everything's good with your house. Again, you don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars later on down the line. Get it fixed now before it's going to cost you that much. Set up your appointment, 205-362-6419, or by email, Mike at oxfoundations.com. Again, remember that promo code WEST. If you have to have something fixed, that gets you 15% off when you mention you heard about it right here on the Championship Racing Network. All right, so this weekend, Formula One's not in action. Okay. Formula E's not in action. Okay. NHRA's not in action. But you know what is in action? NASCAR. NASCAR's back after a couple of weeks off from the Olympics. They begin with the Camping World Truck Series, running the United Rentals 176 at Watkins Glen International. Yep, the road course. It's 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Fox Sports 1 and MRN have the coverage of that. Then the Xfinity Series gets running. This is a much weirder name. Mm-hmm. The Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey 200. Peanut Butter Whiskey. Okay. Anyway, Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey 200 rolls off at Watkins Glen, airing on, if you can find it on your cable or satellite, CNBC, because, yes, the Olympics are still going on. So apparently they couldn't figure out where else to put it. So where did they find a spot for it? CNBC. And MRN Radio beginning at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. I can guarantee you it'll be easier to find an MRN affiliate than it will be to find a CNBC channel.
They kill me putting these races on what's designated as a stinking news channel.
I know. A financial news channel.
Yeah, financial at that, yeah.
Which nobody watches. I've seen the ratings. Sorry. Sunday's 2 races begin with the Cup Series. NASCAR running the Go Bowling at the Glen 220 at Watkins Glen. NBC Sports Network gets this because by that point in time, the vast majority of the Olympic events are over, and really all we're waiting on is to wrap up the few events that are there and the closing ceremonies. And MRN has the coverage of it as well, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. And the final race of the weekend is the return of the NTT Data IndyCar Series 2 racing action as they are up just a little bit north of Birmingham. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix on the streets of Nashville, an 80-lap race on the 11-turn, 2.17-mile-long street course using the primary Nissan Stadium, Tennessee Titans Stadium. Parking lot is the paddock and pit area. They're going to go over the Korean Veterans Memorial Bridge, which rolls over the Cumberland River and back, which, as it turns out, we found out, that's where the start-finish line is on the bridge.
Yep, coming off of the bridge, going back into the main course where the parking lot is.
And Matt found video of them practicing at speed. The bridge, let's just say when you're going, 200, 220, 230, whatever speed that they're going over, is not the smoothest in the world.
No.
If you've ever been on the Korean Veterans Memorial Bridge, whatever undulations you feel when you're doing, I don't know what the speed limit is on that, we'll say 40.
I would think it's a 45 or 50.
Okay, I'll just say 40. Whatever undulations you feel in your car when you go over that at 40, think about that at 200 or plus.
40, 175.
That race, I can't wait. I wish I could be there in person, but we can't. Unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out, and the tickets didn't work out. So I will be very interested to watch this race tomorrow on the NBC Sports Network and IndyCar Radio Network after the NASCAR race coverage gets done, or 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Central Time, whichever comes first. I am looking forward to it. All right. Let's get into the news here. We'll deal with NASCAR news later. We're actually going to start with Formula One and the big, humongous mess that started the Hungarian Grand Prix. We noted it in the recap. Track was slick due to wet weather in the area. Biggest part of the rain, though, had moved through, but as the race began, still a very light, really a drizzle. The teams choosing to go with intermediate wet tires, not the full weather wet tires, which didn't bother Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis Hamilton is considered to be certainly among the best of the current racers and one of the best really wet weather starters in Formula One history. Generally, Max Verstappen is considered to be right up there with Lewis Hamilton. Somehow Valtteri Bottas doesn't seem to have figured that part out, and we noted that he fell back from his second starting position all the way back to 8th by the time he got to turn 1, and he locked up his brakes, and, well, it created a mess that took out 5 racers before, well, the event even got going. For his part of causing the crash, Bottas has been handed a 5 grid spot penalty for the next race, which comes up in late August in Belgium, which means, for those of you that are trying to figure out what I mean by a 5 grid spot penalty, wherever he qualifies, be it 1st or 15th, he automatically moves back 5 spots from there. He also is not the only one to get that penalty, because we mentioned this. Valtteri Bottas got into a couple of drivers creating some mayhem. Lance Stroll was not one of those ones that was contacted by Valtteri Bottas. Lance Stroll, however, was catching up very quickly to all this stuff. He saw what was going on. He locked up the brakes on his Aston Martin, and by doing so, got into Charles Leclerc, took both of them out, and this was a situation where race officials determined that Stroll probably could have avoided that, so they penalized him. He gets a 5 grid spot penalty as well, and both drivers incur 2 F1 Super License penalty points. This is not that big of a deal. You have to accrue 12 points within a 12-month period to have any kind of a massive penalty against you, which would be missing a race. Yeah, Bottas has 4. and Stroll has 6 over the past 12 months. They're not in any danger of missing a race yet. Then
FIA, good grief. Good grief. Oh, you could have missed the crash. You could have missed the crash at 5-point penalty. Oh, I could have missed the crash when I've got 3 cars tied up, look like they're going 3 wide out of turn 2 at Talladega going sideways. But no, yeah, I could have missed them. Good grief. I mean, but then there's Sebastian Vettel. According to the FIA technical delegate, Joe Bauer. Here's my problem.
No relation, by the way, to Jack.
Yeah. The Aston Martin team was not able to provide series officials with a proper fuel sample after the race for testing.
This got under your skin.
Big time. Big time. Here's why. Under current rules, all competitors must provide at least 1 liter sample upon request from the officials.
Yep.
According to the official report, all Aston Martin could muster was 1/3 of a liter. Okay.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier when we did the initial rundown. We said Vettel crossed the finish line second, but afterward he was disallowed. He was disqualified for all intents and purposes. He's now last amongst the running cars. Maybe more importantly, he loses out on 18 championship points for that second-place finish as well. Well, Aston Martin officials, as one would figure, responded quickly, announced their intention to appeal the disqualification. And due to that notice, the FIA impounded and sealed Vettel's car until the FIA Court of Appeals can make their ruling in the case. But here's the thing. Let's go back to the driver over here and find out why that got so much under his skin. Because, again, the reason that they want to test it is they want to make sure, because they don't have refills. In other words, you put all the gas in the tank at the beginning of the race and you run the entire race. That's it.
Yeah.
It's all done. No refills like in NASCAR or even Indycar. But they want to make sure that you didn't, like, put an additive into the gas tank that would make the car go faster. 1/3 of a liter?
You don't have to have that much to check for fuel additives.
I mean, truth be told, how much would you really need? You need about a vial?
At most.
You know, like what they would do when they take your blood for testing, right?
At most.
And they want a full liter?
It got under my skin because I know for a fact, it's a clear fact.
A liter, I think, is give or take 24 ounces. I think. That's a liter right there.
Roughly.
If you're checking on our YouTube channel.
Roughly.
How many ounces did that say?
That is a 20 ounce.
That's a 20 ounce. Okay. All right. I was wrong. I thought it was 24. Who knew?
Close. Okay.
That goes back to the Jack Bauer thing.
All the cars start on a full, complete fuel load.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me they have that Aston Martin Mercedes engine tuned enough to where it burns more fuel than everybody else? All the other cars
had a liter.
This car only had 1/3 of a liter.
Well, let's check that. Valtteri Bottas had a full tank.
Stroll did. Leclerc did. Norris did, and quite a few others.
Yeah.
You're checking for that, but you need more than a liter to check for it. I know people that have tested fuel in labs, and all they need is, as he said, a vial.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's in your rules, but that's an arbitrary number.
Very arbitrary.
Who came up with the idea that you needed a full liter? I mean, are you testing the top of the liter and then you go and you put a little taller syringe or whatever it is that you're pulling to make sure that you get it off the bottom?
I don't know, but all I can say is this: it's the FIA, for crying out loud.
Yeah, if we can make it more complicated, we will.
They've got some of the more dumbest, stupidest rules, regulations, bylaws, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever heard in my life, ever.
Yeah, I mean, as fascinated as I am by Formula One racing, you, whether you're a driver, crew chief, whatever, you want to be as familiar as you can about the rules. My gosh, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to try to understand the rules in Formula One. I mean, NASCAR's got a nice, thick rule book. We've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Formula One's got to look like a detailed United States budget.
Oof.
I mean, that's all I can picture is a book that looks about as thick as, say, War and Peace. I mean, good night almighty. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Either way, the appeal has been set. We don't have a date yet. We'll let you know when all things go out. And then there's Charles Leclerc. We talked about him being taken out by Lance Stroll in this fracas at the beginning of the race. It appears that his Ferrari not only incurred body damage in the crash, but the engine somehow suffered irreparable damage as well. And this could end up being a problem under the FIA engine rules because current rules allow a limited number of engines a season. For this year, it's 3. And this was his second one. So the next race, Belgian Grand Prix, is his third motor on the year. For that, he will not incur a penalty. But let's face it, this is late August. We're going into November, December?
Yep.
Do we honestly believe that that third engine is going to make it through September, through October, and through November? I don't. And here's the thing. Neither does Ferrari, because they understand the stress that racing puts on an engine. And the fourth engine means penalties. A penalty for using a fourth or more means grid spot penalties, similar to what we just detailed for Valtteri Bottas and Lance Stroll.
If this Ferrari engine makes it longer than 6, somebody please, for the love of humanity,
tear that engine apart.
I want to see what's in that engine. Engines that run 10, 11, 12,000 RPMs per race and hold that long, I want to see that.
I do too. I'd be impressed if it makes it through mid-October.
Plus, I want somebody to take a $10 million check and buy me one.
Absolutely. Or just give me the $10 million. I'll be happy with that. After he got out of his car following a great comeback, the one-time 15th place after his first pit stop, third at the checkers, and ultimately officially second place finishing Lewis Hamilton after the Sebastian Vettel ruling, had to be checked out by medical personnel because he complained of fatigue and dizziness. The defending champion admitted that during the post-race podium celebration, he had blurry vision. And probably not because he got champagne in his eyeballs. Hamilton said that he is no doctor, but believes this could be the result of, quote, long COVID, unquote, or related to his COVID diagnosis that caused him to miss a race late last year after he had locked up the 2020 driver's title. Told media after he got checked out and sat down in the infield in the air conditioning, quote, I'm okay. I had real big dizziness and everything got a bit blurry on the podium. I've been fighting all year, really, with staying healthy after what happened at the end of last year, and it's still a battle. I haven't spoken to anyone about it, but I think the effects of COVID are lingering. I remember the effects of when I had it, and training has been different since then. The level of fatigue you get is different, and it's a real challenge. I continue to train and prepare the best way I can. Today, who knows what it is? Maybe it's hydration. I don't know. But I've definitely not had this experience. Had something similar at Silverstone, but this is way worse. And from what we understand, there was an uptick in the heat and the humidity at Hungary over what we had at Britain. And, you know, I understand illnesses can cause, I haven't had COVID to the best of my knowledge, but I understand that illnesses can cause after effects. But we're talking about 8 months after the fact, number one. And number two, you had a real hot and humid day, and even he mentioned the fact that could have been hydration. I think we've got a whole bunch of things at work here. This is not just a COVID situation.
Bingo. Because heat, humidity, let's see here. Closed-faced helmet, fire suit, gloves, fireproof underwear, which is better known as Nomex. That, kids, will dehydrate you pretty quick if you're not properly hydrated. Stop using excuses and just say, I didn't hydrate enough.
Yeah.
That's on me.
I didn't have enough water, Gatorade, Powerade, whatever it is that you're drinking. You didn't have enough. That's it.
I mean, Stop. Good job, John.
Yeah.
Stop,
Racing under the influence. I wonder what the penalty is on that.
Stop being a drama queen. Oh, it's related to long COVID. Shut up. You didn't hydrate enough.
We are over dramatizing, and I get it. People I know have lost their lives due to COVID, but there were other mitigating factors involved. It wasn't just COVID. The number of people that have died solely because they got the flu, COVID-19, minuscule. The vast majority, and I'm talking 95+% of people who have died, who have had COVID-19, had a second and or multiple comorbidity factors.
A lot.
And let's face it, if you've watched Formula One or Indycar or NASCAR or the NHRA, we're talking about people who take a lot of time, pay a lot of attention to how good a shape that they are. They want to be in as good a shape as they possibly can. And Lewis Hamilton is in fine physical form. Let's just put it that way. Trust me, he didn't hydrate properly. That's it. He nailed it, but he's blaming it on something else. Period. When we come back, we will talk Formula E, and I don't know, we'll get into some IndyCar as well. Oh, by the way, our good friend Russell got a hold of us. There's something going on at Talladega today. We'll talk about that, too, when we come back right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
When severe weather's at its worst.
Talk into the mic. Talk into the mic.
When you're turned and looking at me, it takes the volume away.
Yeah. I'm riding you as best I can, but I can only do so much.
Yeah, as you're doing it, just kind of do this. Yeah, there you go. That's okay.
This report is service of the Area Agency on Aging.
Two little kids there. They don't want to go that right. Go see the track for so long. I think here's the perfect chance.
Yeah, it is.
I text Russell the other day. I said, "You gonna be out there?" He said, "Absolutely, I'll be out there." I told him what to do.
Tell him we said hi then.
He said, "Yeah, Brandon, come on."
Tell him I said hi. I'd love to go. I gotta get home and get some nap time. Gotta be at work at 2 and run a soccer game. Yay!
Whoever got that shot right there, perfect. Actual Broadway in the background.
Ooh, very nice. Yeah, that's a great shot.
That's a good shot.
From where? Where is the shot?
There's Bridgestone. Coming off the bridge. Nope.
The bridge is pointing.
The bridge is pointing back this way. Yeah, that's coming off the bridge because he's turning back in. Yeah, that's coming down the stretch off the bridge.
Oh, I see. Stadiums.
The stadium up back down here. Yeah.
That's it. That's a great shot. Whoever got that shot put themselves in a nice place.
So they did.
Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson with producer John Myers. Our home, away from home, shall we say, is Talladega Superspeedway. We won't get to race there until October, but there is activity going on later today at Talladega Superspeedway. It's a great day for it. I mean, here in East Central Alabama, we got sunshine with some white puffy clouds. That's a good sign. Starting at 10 a.m., there is a chance for you to take your car out onto the track at Talladega Superspeedway.
Yep.
And there's also a chance for you to go in and see what it's like for the people who win at Talladega, because they're going to let you go into victory lane.
Yep.
You're going to be out there.
Yeah, I got two little buddies of mine from our church that we go to. That's always told me they wanted to go see the big track. So here's the perfect chance. I'm going to take them out there, go have a little fun with them.
Absolutely. You should too. 10 a.m. till about 4 p.m. this afternoon,
yeah.
and whatever it's going to cost you, which is generally about $50. And I think that's the cost this time.
Yep.
It always goes towards great causes. because this is all for charity. Talladega, really, they're not going to keep that. They're going to turn it over to charities. It's really good stuff. Make sure you get the opportunity. We'll remind you about it before the end of the show. Because, again, this is cool stuff. Meantime, let's get back into the news here, and we turn our attention over to the fine folks at Formula E. I don't know what's going on with my headphones. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, Robin Freins and Envision Virgin Racing have announced they've come to terms on a contract extension that'll keep him racing with that organization at least through next season, 2021-2022. Robin Freins currently second in points as the series gets prepared to wrap up their 2020-2021 season next weekend, foreshadowing, with a doubleheader race weekend in Berlin. Freins joined the team back in Season 5. His deal extension will keep him with Envision Virgin Racing through at least the 8th season of the series. He's not taken one of their racers to victory lane since the last race of his first year with the team, but he's been so consistent as a threat to win each race, and his consistency, as I mentioned, has his second in the points and in the title hunt. Meantime, there's another driver staying with his current team next season. That's Mitch Evans. Evans is was linked to a drive at Porsche next year in Formula E, but ended up signing a multi-year contract extension to stay with Jaguar. The rumor mill, at least surrounding Evans and Freins, can now settle down, but we are in silly season in all forms of racing, so expect that to continue. I love this story because we've talked about this. So much interest in racing.
Right.
Really all forms. But this is one of those stories that we've been kind of following. Juncos Racing, we've been talking about them wanting to become an IndyCar team for, 4 or 5 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like, maybe longer. Either way, they have been long time a powerhouse team in Indy Lights and the other 2 lower divisions of the Road to IndyCar ladder. But again, as we've talked about it for the past few seasons, been making noise about joining IndyCar officially. Now they've gotten more serious because they have a co-investor. Now being called Juncos Hollinger Racing because Brad Hollinger has joined up with the ownership group, and with that extra financial backing, the team finally has stated that they will get into IndyCar racing full-time, beginning with the final 3 races of this season as something of a dry run, and plans to be full-time in IndyCar in 2022. And their home base is less than a mile. Their shop will be less than a mile from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If you want to go testing, you don't have to haul far.
I mean, you don't even have to load the big hauler up. You can just load a little hauler up. Just drive right down the road, and there you are.
Or if you know the police really, really well, hey, listen, we're just going to ride down the road here. Can we just take the car? Brad Hollinger, by the way, if you've never heard his name, you'd be excused, because I hadn't. I didn't know what his backing was, but it turns out it's pretty solid. He brings some pretty good racing experience. For a time, he was the second largest shareholder and a board member of the Williams Grand Prix Holdings Formula One team, which of course ended when the Williams family sold the team off. Since then, he said he had been seeking a chance to get back into racing, wanted to become an owner in the IndyCar ranks, and got a leg up when he happened to have met Ricardo Juncos back in 2017, and they became fast friends. So for this year, again, they plan to be full-time next year. For this year, they plan to enter an as-yet unnamed driver in the Grand Prix of Portland, the Grand Prix of Monterey, and the season finale Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we really know about this is that the car is going to run Chevrolet engines, because they haven't even given a car number yet, but that's somewhat up to the driver as well. Juncos Racing has been a winner, as we alluded to at the beginning of the story. In their decade of running in the Road to Indy feeder car series, they've had 2 Indy Lights titles, 5 Indy Pro 2000 championships, and 5 Indy Pro 2000 team titles as well. Said he plans to continue fielding teams in the Road to Indy feeder series as well as joining IndyCar, which means they've automatically got a driver development program running.
Mm-hmm.
Solid.
Very.
Nicely done by Juncos, who has been looking for the proper opportunity. I think he found it. Well done.
Yep.
And then there's this guy.
This raised my eyebrow.
Mine too. Should Nico Hülkenberg not get the opportunity that admittedly he does want to return to a Formula One seat full-time for 2022, he said he's willing to do what Alexander Rossi and Romain Grosjean have done, and that's go from full-time Formula One to race an IndyCar. Racer.com is reporting that Hulkenberg and Ed Carpenter have even talked about possibilities for 2022. And yes, his talking with Ed Carpenter Racing has a specific purpose. All of this, again, assumes Hulkenberg does not get a full-time Formula One ride for next season, which is not a guarantee because of the fact that he is very, very well talked about. He had a couple of fill-in slots last year because of COVID-positive tests among the, what we now would call Aston Martin, back then, Racing Point drivers. And that's who he is currently a reserve driver for, still. And he's being linked to a few different seats within Formula One. But should none of those come to fruition, according to Racer.com, the deal would be similar to this year's initial deals with Romain Grosjean and the one that Jimmy Johnson's using, and that's to run the road and street course race schedule. Now we go back to the fact that he's talking with Ed Carpenter Racing. Really, more specifically, he's talking with Carpenter specifically. Ed Carpenter, we have told you in the past, prefers to run only on the oval tracks in IndyCar. Connor Daly's splitting the season in the number 20 car this year, but he's lacking funding for 2022. But if he could obtain the backing, he is still a possibility for that car. But can you imagine Ed Carpenter, who is very good on ovals, and then you pair him with Nico Hulkenberg? No disrespect to Connor Daly, who has proven himself quite adept behind the wheel.
I think Connor Daly is going to end up going to Andretti.
I think you're probably right. And to land with Nico Hulkenberg for Ed Carpenter would be, let's just say, a more than soft landing.
A soft landing for him, as well as a big, gigantic shot of B12 into the arm of the team of Ed Carpenter Racing.
And the thing about it is, the other side of it, I mean, we could beat this dead horse, and okay, we know that Jimmy Johnson's got a competitive car. It's a Chip Ganassi racing car. He's done nothing with it. Nico Hulkenberg lands in an Ed Carpenter racing car. Is it a top-level IndyCar car? No. But you know what? If Ganassi and Penske are level 1, Ed Carpenter's level 2. You're not falling way off the cliff here. This is not a backmarker car.
No.
This is a highly contending car.
Oh, yeah.
Be a nice landing spot for Nico Hulkenberg if he doesn't get an F1 ride.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, 2,000,000%.
I got to admit, I'd kind of like to see it. And again, if he gets to follow his dream and get back into full-time with a Formula One seat, congratulations to Nico Hulkenberg. But truth be told, I'd love to see him in an F1, in an IndyCar ride. I mean, I think it'd be fantastic.
It would be.
It'd be great.
It would be.
Something that this weekend might do, in addition to giving us a chance to see racing on the downtown streets of Nashville, Tennessee, in IndyCar, is give us a little insight as to how the future of the IndyCar series might look. Look ahead to 2022 and all the interest from the teams to either expand their operations or, as we noted a moment ago, new teams coming into the series. This weekend, we're going to have the biggest number of entries in a single IndyCar race since this year's Indy 500. And you got to remember, 33 cars start the Indy 500.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend, the number of starters, 27.
And the layout of this course in Nashville with 27 cars, that is going to be interesting.
I want to say I read that it was either 23 or 24 of them are full-time rides.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, smart time rides.
Yep.
But as we start to go along, the Top Gun racings, the Junkos Hollinger racings, all of these other teams that are sitting there, they're just playing around the fringes, but they're getting their feet wet and having whatever level of success that they feel that they need in order to begin to go towards full-time.
Right.
I think I'm not even going to say I think. I know this is a good sign for the health and future of the IndyCar series.
I don't disagree with that. I agree.
It'll be fun to watch to see how this translates not only as we go on throughout the rest of this season, but as we get ready to go into 2022.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never get 33. It's like the law in Washington, D.C. There's no building inside the city limits of Washington, D.C. There's no building that can be taller than the Washington Monument. Can't do it.
Which is really tall.
It is. Can't do it. For Indy, they don't want any race to have the number of cars that the Indy 500 does. I get it. It's the flagship race, and it is arguably, if not the most, one of the most famous races in the entire motorsports world, regardless of series.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that you want the most entries in. But to only be 6 shy of that in Nashville in its first year.
Sporty.
That's good stuff. Right.
Yep.
And one more note, somewhat somber note here. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to longtime IndyCar and motorsports reporter Robin Miller. Miller penned an open letter which was posted on Racer.com announcing he is now battling not only cancer, but leukemia. In his own words, he's coming to terms with his own mortality. He said this, quote, "My situation is pretty cut and dried. There's no cure for my illness. It can be treated." Said he's undergoing treatment at a clinic in Indiana right now where he praised both the doctors and the nurses that are working with him. He said he will be inducted, and very, very highly overdue.
Yep.
Will be inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame later on this month. But he said that may be one of the few times that we see him for a while because he plans to step back from his reporting. He'll move out to Phoenix, Arizona to be closer to his family, his extended family, as it turns out, while continuing treatment and hoping for the best. But as he noted, prepping for his time, as he put it, where he plans to be surrounded by family when that time ultimately does come. I've read his stuff. Man's good.
You don't get much better than him.
No. And his connections, his knowledge, everything is going to be missed whenever he does go. And as we said, highly overdue on the induction into the Motorsports Hall of Fame. Robin Miller, from all of us here at the Championship Racing Network, our thoughts and our prayers go with you, and we wish you nothing but the best as God watches over you.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
WTDR-FM, Talladega, Oxford, Anniston, and streaming live 24/7 at WTDRThunder.com. Alabama's #1 country, Thunder 92.7.
This report is service of the Area Agency on Aging. Many older Alabamians have to choose between buying food, medicine, or other necessities. If you or someone you know struggles to pay for groceries, help may be available.
What time is it today?
Call the Area Agency on Aging.
10 to 4?
Each line to find out more.
If you're having problems buying your groceries and
See
you
what I
need
said?
help, call the
Yeah, I saw
Area
it.
Agency on Aging locally at 1-800-243-5463. They'll explain all about SNAP for you. It's a
We'll mention it again at least one more time, maybe twice before the next show. Russell texted. I was already planning on talking about it, but I was going to wait until we got into NASCAR stuff, but I figured since Russell texted me, I'd go ahead and do it now since he's listening.
Seems to me like the energy level has increased. It's now like, seems like it has.
Oh, my energy shot through the roof. And the funny thing is Russell texted me and he goes, "Can we talk? I got some news." I'm like, "Oh, shit. Okay, I'll call you as soon as I can."
Yeah, when you said that, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, God, now what?" He said, "Dude, I got news that's going to make your day." And then he told me that. I'm like, "You damn kidding me."
Going back to the HRA.
Yes.
Good. What I looked down, I had it plugged in my truck, my CarPlay. And when I got CarPlay plugged in, my phone would light up. But it comes straight to the radio.
Go straight in,
yeah.
Right.
Well, I was zoned out looking down the road and I didn't even see the radio screen flash. I looked from the phone, pulled it off the phone, looked. Sometimes the phone was like. I'm thinking, alright, stop your dance, get ready to go golf. That was my first thought.
Which I need to get in touch with him again because he has said apparently they have not had their pre-race meeting. So I don't know what's going on.
Here we go.
And we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Hour number 2 is underway. If you missed hour number 1, that's on you. We were here. We were here. I don't know where you were.
Yeah.
But welcome back in. And we get to the NHRA, and we get back to Pomona. If you were listening last hour, when we did the recap, we told you that Leah Pruitt did a single run in the final where she was slated to face off against Justin Ashley. Turns out there was actually nothing wrong with the car. It turns out it was Ashley. We talked last hour about how Lewis Hamilton said that he needed to get to the attention of the medical personnel at the track because he was dizzy and had vision blurriness during his post-race celebration. Kind of the same thing with Ashley. It was a very hot day in Southern California. It was a hot day here, too. It was a very hot day in Southern California. Ashley began to complain about how he felt being weak. He still got into the car. He tried to make it there, but he said that as soon as he got strapped in, he felt sick to his stomach. And when the crew checked on him after he said that, the crew claimed he was listless to the point of he actually needed the crew to pull him out of the car. He couldn't do it himself. And upon noting that he was suffering from heat exhaustion, they rushed him back to the air-conditioned area of their own pit. Ashley said later, quote, "I had spent the day drinking plenty of fluids, but I really didn't give my body the right food or nutrition that it needed. I was just caught up in mixing the fuel, racing the car, and spending a lot of time outside and didn't feed my body, and it caught up to me." Lewis Hamilton. He said he should be fine to be able to race at the next event, which happens in 2 weeks at Topeka, Kansas. See, he knew exactly what he did, and he didn't blame anything else.
Yep. You don't start eating and drinking the same day. You start at least 3 days ahead of time.
Yeah. Especially if you know that you're going to be as hot as things are in August in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Which probably was close to, if not above triple digits. Just saying.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's close.
And then after the long-delayed Winter Nationals at Pomona from last weekend, NHRA and officials from Auto Club Raceway at Pomona are stating that they will return to their traditional date in 2022. In other words, they plan to open the season next year. The exact date not yet known, as the NHRA has not released the official 2022 Camping World Drag Racing slate, and probably nobody has talked to the guy in the governor's office who probably will have something to say about that.
Well,
anyway.
it will be the NHRA Auto Club Winter, Spring, Summer Nationals.
They probably ought to just drop the whole Winter Nationals thing, and because we don't know when it's going to run.
Just call it the NHRA Season Nationals.
There you go. Let's go ahead and make the transition over to NASCAR. Once again, want to mention this. If you missed the first hour, you missed a lot. But our fine friends at Talladega, our second home, by the way, got an event going on. Starts at 10 a.m., goes on until 4 o'clock this afternoon. It is a great charitable event where you pay a little bit of money, which goes towards great causes. Not just one, but causes. And you'll get the chance, number one, not only to take your own car out onto the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway and get something of an idea of what these drivers deal with whenever they're racing there 2 times a year, but you'll also get the chance to act like you won, because you're going to get to go and experience Victory Lane. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. today. We'll remind you about it once again a little bit later on. Meantime, things changing in NASCAR. Welcome to silly season. Man.
Yeah.
Ever since the announcement that Trackhouse Racing was buying out Chip Ganassi Racing effective at the end of this season, Chip Ganassi will continue as the owner until the end of the 2021 season, with Kurt Busch driving the number 1, Ross Chastain driving the number 42. But what will happen after that? We already knew this. Trackhouse Racing wasn't going to be a 3-car team. They were going to be a 2-car operation, and they had previously announced they were keeping the 99 with Daniel Suarez. That meant only one more opening was left with 2 incumbents, the aforementioned Ross Chastain and Kurt Busch. So what are we going to do? One's going to be without a seat in 2022, and one was going to be sticking around. Who was who? Turns out that it appears to be the guy that will not have a seat when the music stops, because it stopped this week, is Kurt Busch. Trackhouse Racing announced that Ross Chastain will be retained for 2022, and he will take over the number 1 Chevrolet Camaro, which means that they park, for lack of a better term, the number 42 after this year. Chastain, again, driving the 42, has so far tallied 2 top 5 finishes, including a career-high second-place finish at Nashville Superspeedway, 6 top 10s, and an average finish on the year of 17.8. Thing about it is, though, he sits 20th in the points, and he's 144 points out of the 16th and final playoff spot heading into this weekend at Watkins Glen, meaning to get into the playoffs, Ross Chastain will have to win.
Mm-hmm.
Who is in the playoffs is Kurt Busch.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is no disrespect to Kurt Busch, I have the ultimate respect for Kurt Busch and what he's been able to accomplish. The man's got a title.
Yep.
For crying out loud.
Yep.
He's got, I can't even remember how many wins, 30-ish?
34, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right. 34 wins and a title. You can't take anything away from Kurt Busch, and he is not ready to hang up the driver's seat, the driver's helmet, or steering wheel anyway. Ross Chastain's younger. Ross Chastain has kind of built-in backing from the Florida Watermelon Growers Association.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, that's part of his winning celebration. Whenever he wins a race, what does he do? He smashes a watermelon right on the start-finish line.
Even though Sir Justin Marks, that
also says he doesn't have any financial problems.
He does not have any financial problems.
He's not going to turn down a built-in sponsor like that.
I mean, when you've got your Upstart Cup team for this year operating out of the RCR shop, you go in sight unseen and you buy everything. And when I mean everything, probably down to the toilet paper rolls in the shop.
And the excess toilet paper.
Then under the Chip Ganassi Racing banner of the Cup Series, you buy sight unseen shop, trucks, everything and all.
Let's just use lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah, lock, stock, and barrel.
Bought everything.
You own the GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're one of the chief financial supporters and organizers of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix in Nashville this weekend.
Yeah.
You're fielding 2 Trans Am TA2 cars in the Trans Am race today that you're driving yourself and Daniel Suarez, your Cup driver, is driving. Let's just say, yeah, you don't have a financial problem.
You don't, but you know what? It's still nice to have a sponsor that Ross Chastain brings.
Bingo.
And then there's Rick Ware Racing.
But wait, there's more.
Or less. As we have noted here on this show, Rick Ware is fully engaged in many forms of racing himself. Thing about it is, his efforts in NASCAR have, to be kind, not borne much fruit, as they are generally backmarker cars. Ware wants to change that. He got on to SiriusXM satellite radio recently and spoke with Jack Arute and said that he wants two really strong teams. Quote, "My dream and my goal is to step everything up to the next level, both competition and technology-wise." He added that the plans were actually to start on that road this year, but those were pushed back due to COVID. But he plans on getting things back rolling for 2022 and beyond, and told Arute bluntly, quote, "We are trying to have 2 really strong cars for next year." I keep mentioning the number 2 on purpose, because Rick Ware Racing is fielding 4 full-time Cup Series cars this year.
I guarantee you. Yeah, I'm guaranteeing you. Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan has probably already stroked the check to buy one of those charters for the car that I foresee Kurt Busch going into next year.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, calling a shot.
I guarantee you he's going to go there. Okay. If you want 2 competitive Cup cars, okay, one, you don't field a backmarker IndyCar team that is filling the 27th spot in the race this weekend with none other than Cody Ware driving it.
I know.
Okay. You don't field a car in every single stinking motorsports series in the face of the human earth.
Except for the NHRA. Which
except for NHRA and motocross.
I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing on the part of the NHRA.
He's got a Cup car, IndyCar, IMSA team. He's got an Xfinity team. I'm waiting on him to dabble into a truck somewhere.
Oh, I guarantee you he has.
It's coming. Yeah. Okay, he's got 2 Pinty Series cars, which
Canadian NASCAR, by the way.
Which is baffling. He's got a tie to a Whelen Euro Series car.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else he's got? Too much money.
And not enough to show for it.
Ding, ding.
I mean, let's bottom line it. You know, I appreciate Rick Ware's passion for racing. I want to know where the idea of I want to have 2 really strong Cup Series cars was 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Why, if you want to have a strong Cup car, why not focus on NASCAR?
Exactly.
Why stretch yourself amongst all of these other series?
Why field 4 Cup cars that are 5 laps down by the time lap 3's over with?
Yeah. Concentrate.
Drop to 2.
Drop to the 2. Concentrate on this.
Consolidate.
I think he's got it.
Finally. Next time I go to North Carolina, I'm going on a mission. I want to see how stinking big Rick Ware's shop is.
That'd be a curious question.
It's got to be huge for
this
4
thing has got to
cars.
be Team Penske's size.
All right. Now, all that being said, I got a question. We already know this. We know that 2311 Racing, the Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin co-owned team, is going to expand out to a second team. You're predicting Kurt Busch. I'm right there with you. What will the car number be? The 23 is already taken. I've got a thought.
32.
I've thought about the 32, the flip. But remember Michael Jordan when he played with the Birmingham Barons and when he first came back to the NBA after that, and what number he wore?
45.
Could he get the Petty family to relent and let him use the 45?
I doubt it.
But what
I
if,
seriously doubt
but
it.
what if he could? You think Jordan would jump at it?
He would.
I mean, I'm asking the question. That's all. I'm just throwing it out there for conversation's sake.
He would, but here's, I think, with what you would call the gentleman's agreement.
Yeah. He'd have to ask.
I don't think he would infringe on any heritage of Petty family, especially.
I don't think you would want to, but at the same point in time, if I'm Michael Jordan, what does it hurt for me as Michael Jordan to call you as Kyle Petty and ask the question? What's the worst you're going to say? No? All right. I mean, it's not like I called up and demanded you give me the 45. Hey, would you mind if I used the 45 next year? That's how you ask it.
Yeah.
And if he still get a no, no harm, no foul.
Hey, that's totally fine, Kyle. I respect that. I more than respect it.
Yeah.
But
I just asked the question.
True. But I think Jordan, where he played basketball basically in Petty's backyard.
Yeah.
Nearly, because we know
Oh,
Randleman is not far from Chapel Hill.
Sure.
I think from a respect level, that won't be touched. I could see it being 32 before 45.
I could see that, too. Congratulations going out to Darrell Bubba Wallace Jr. and his girlfriend, Amanda Carter. They have announced officially their engagement. They did so a week ago yesterday, officially. Wallace posted on his personal Twitter account pictures of the two at a scenic waterfall, where apparently he popped the question. He posted, quote, "Why I waited so long, we will never know." You're right, we will never know. The wait is over. Here's to forever. No wedding date was officially announced, I will assume, sometime during the off-season.
Yeah.
We'll just say that. And then there's this, and I don't know why this continues to pop up. I wish they would drop it.
Why is this even an issue?
I don't know, but apparently they're still investigating moving the numbers on the sides of the cars. Last year, when the All-Star race went to Bristol Motor Speedway, NASCAR tried this experiment, for lack of a better term, to moving the numbers on the cars to just in front of the rear wheel wells and giving the vast majority of the door to your primary sponsor. Since then, there has been talk of making either that move permanent, moving the numbers behind the rear wheel wells, which is even worse, keeping them where they have traditionally been, or now there is yet another option, according to Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily. NASCAR apparently is talking to the teams about moving the numbers forward. In other words, just behind the front wheel well, but likely remaining on the door. No official announcement has been made. Stern states that NASCAR could reveal their plans for 2022 regarding placement of numbers very soon. I have said this probably more in the past year and a half than I had in the previous 50 years of my life. If something ain't broke, don't fix it.
You don't fix it.
There is zero. Let me repeat this. Zero wrong with where the numbers are currently and have traditionally been. Nothing.
Nope.
I get the fact that you want to help out the sponsors of the individual racers. I get it. There's better ways to do it. This is not the way to do it. I can't express that any clearer or more strenuously. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate this idea of moving the numbers. When I saw it last year at the All-Star race, I didn't like it. I didn't care for the look of the car. And that got a picture that accompanied this story, a picture of those cars on the Banks of Bristol from last year. And I kept looking at it and going, I still don't like it.
Do you not like it?
I don't like it. Am I off base here, driver?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Nope. If you carefully look at it, case in point, the RCR cars. They have teased with moving numbers forward just a little bit to where the position it would be.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know what you're looking at to be able to know that you got to know what you're looking at to be able to see that it's moved forward.
Yeah.
But if nobody knows it with the naked eye, you really can't tell it.
Yeah. But if you slide that thing like you did last year at the All-Star race that much more forward.
Oh, boy.
Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's wrong. It's wrong. Don't do it.
So there's nothing wrong with the numbers where there are?
No.
Nothing at all?
0. Or 1 or 99 or any number in between.
No. Nope.
What if you got something wrong with your house, Steve?
Oh, that needs to be fixed. And I'll tell you the guy that can do it for you, and that's our good friend Michael Hart. And you can call him anywhere in the state of Alabama if you have a problem or just think you might have a foundation problem in your house. Call Michael 205-362-6419 and set up an appointment, or email him at mike@oxfoundations.com and set up the appointment with him where he will come out. He will go into and all around your house, and he will make sure that you know, because he will know, what's going on with your house, specifically its foundation. Remember, this is, if not the most expensive purchase you'll ever make, it is certainly one of the most expensive ones, and you want it to last a long, long time. Even if you're saying, hey, this isn't my forever home, sooner or later you're going to want to sell it. If it's got a foundation problem, that hurts its resale value. So make sure there's nothing wrong with it. Set up the appointment, have Michael come out. He will go through the house, like we said, inside and out and under. And he will end up with a no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment that will tell you if you do have a problem.
That's what I like. He comes out, he checks it out. If you don't have a problem, it's free. You don't have to worry about paying jack.
Yep. He will hand you the sheet of paper that says you have no problem. And he will shake your hand and he will walk away. That's it. But if you have a problem, and still at no cost to you, you now have it in writing what's wrong, and you have an estimate as to how much it's going to cost to get it fixed. And keep in mind that if you just throw that estimate off to the side and you wait 5, 10, or more years, your problem's only going to get worse.
I was going to say multiply whatever that was by that number.
Yeah. We're talking about, I don't know, let's say it's a $5,000 fix. But you wait 5, 10, 15 years? Now we're talking 15, 20, 30, maybe worse, $1,000 out of your pocket. Nah, don't do it. Find out now. Call him 205-362-6419 or email him mike@oxfoundations.com. And then there's this fun part. Once he hands you that estimate, assuming that there is something wrong with the house, once he hands you that estimate, you simply remember the promo code WEST. You get 15% off that total just by telling him you heard it right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
You got more NASCAR? Are you going Cup? Or are you going back to Xfinity?
Xfinity. Which we're going to run through pretty quick because at least the full last segment's going to be all the racing families.
We may have to bypass.
I think we can do it. Yeah, it'll be close, but we'll get it. I'm confident.
I won't say much before we go through to where we load up our last conversation.
Yeah. I want to give the tease of what's coming up and the genesis of it again before we go to the next break.
All right, you want to come back to Talladega?
Yeah, we can talk Talladega one more time. You want to bring it back? Talk Talladega? Since you're going to go? You do it. It'll be different.
All proceeds will.
That's just the Dagger gives.
Benefit.
Dagger gives.
The caption I got is "Run what you brung."
That's how I would die. I would die when I say that. Run what you brung. I think.
I like that.
I wish it get hotter in here.
Be careful what you wish for.
Thermostat down a couple degrees just to try to cool it off.
Here we go.
We tried that.
Network.
As we teased it earlier in the show, today out at our second home at Talladega Superspeedway, they're having a track drive to benefit the Dega Gives charitable campaign, which is a division of the NASCAR Foundation. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. today, you can go out, give a donation to the NASCAR Foundation, the Dega Gives campaign, and get to take your street car on the long, storied, historic high banks of Talladega Superspeedway.
And if you've never done it, it is a blast. If you have done it before, take a different car.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve took me for a passenger ride in his car, and let's just say I could reach out and touch the wall. And we were traveling almost triple digits. It was horrifying.
Way to sell it, man. Way to sell it.
If you're but in a good way. It's horrifying in a good way.
Yes.
No, it was like getting on a roller coaster. You know that thrill you get when you're getting up to the hill and then down? That's what it was. It was that thrill, but yeah.
But if you're out there around the 1 to 1:30 hour, I will be out there today. So if you see me out there, just throw your hand up and wave while I'm out there enjoying myself.
I'm sure he will be in full CRN regalia. I wish John and I could make it out there, but unfortunately our schedule will not allow that.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of schedules, we're on one. And let's get into it. Xfinity Series news, where we mentioned on the show last week, Jordan Anderson Racing seems to be at something of a crossroads, at least for the team owner. It's not like Jordan Anderson Racing is going anywhere, but Anderson seems, for the most part, warming up to the idea of, at least in the preparation mode, I should say, of turning in his driver's suit for the ownership suit. Part of that is noting that the driver lineup he has used to this point of the season is now being joined by Richard Petty Motorsports driver Eric Jones. He will be driving at Watkins Glen for Jordan Anderson Racing this weekend. And this is a lineup that Jones joins that to this point has featured not only Anderson, but Tyler Reddick, Josh Berry, who's been driving a lot of races for Junior Motorsports, and NASCAR veteran Kaz Gralla. For today's race, Jones drives the number 31 Chevrolet Camaro with sponsorship from a longtime partner of Jordan Anderson Racing, Bommarito Auto Group, out of St. Louis, Missouri. There's another guest driver of note joining Rick Ware Racing to pilot the number 15 Chevrolet Camaro in the Xfinity Series race today. His prior racing experience is mostly open-wheel racing, including a failed attempt to qualify for this year's Indy 500 for Top Gun Racing, and that is R.C. Enerson. Enerson joins a 37-car field at Watkins Glen with exactly one Xfinity Series race under his belt. Last year's Road America race where he finished 20th.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
No comment from our resident driver.
That is speechless.
I'm not going to say it.
So let's move on to this.
Yeah.
Michael Lynette has been medically cleared to drive today's race at Watkins Glen. Lynette, who is now 35, suffered a stress fracture to his right femur and had to go undergo surgery to repair it. And because of that, missed the last couple of races because of his medical recovery. But he has met, apparently, all of that criteria. Lynette sits 11th in Xfinity Series standings. He has no win on the year. But he does have this, a medical waiver from NASCAR. In other words, he's still playoff eligible, and he has performed admirably this year. Again, sits 11th, and there are 12 Xfinity playoff slots. He's in a good position.
Mm-hmm.
And then, next weekend, when the series,
and Steve,
and my wife and I, head to Indianapolis, more road course ringers will join, and one of them, actually, I should say two, are coming from the Whelen Euro Series. One of them is making his Xfinity Series debut. He will be driving the number 42 Toyota Supra for MBM Motorsports. His name, and I hope I haven't murdered it by saying that this way, Giorgio Maggi. He is a native of Switzerland. No, not Italy, Switzerland. And he will make the very first Swiss native driver to race in a top-level NASCAR race when he takes the green flag next weekend. And as it turns out, he'll be teammates for the race with his 2019 Whelen Euro Series champion cohort, Loris Hezemans, which I probably murdered that too, sorry. He will be running his third Xfinity Series race coming up this year. They're both teammates in the NASCAR Euro Series and will become the first Euro Series drivers to compete in the same national race in the U.S. And yeah, I'll be there. I hope you're watching on television. Then there's the Camping World Truck Series, where later today the Truck Series takes to Watkins Glen. There's going to be a driver change there. A.J. Allmendinger will be pulling double duty. I bet you he's hydrated properly. Yes, that's a running gag. Not only will Allmendinger be driving his regular race for Calig Racing in the Xfinity Series, but due to a positive COVID test, Chase Purdy had to be pulled from the GMS Racing number 23 Chevy truck. This will mark Allmendinger's first Truck Series start since 2008. I think there's been some changes since then.
Quite a few.
But you know what? I bet you A.J. Allmendinger adapts like that.
Yep.
And then there's Hayley Deegan. She seems to be everywhere this year. She's running a part-time schedule in the Truck Series, running a part-time ARCA slate, and hopes to, as she told Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily, not only to return to the Truck Series in 2022, she wants to be full-time in the Truck Series next year, and maybe even get a few races in the Xfinity Series, noting that that's where, at least in the short term, she wants to be. Ultimately, she wants to be like every other stock car driver and be in the Cup Series. She also stated she would be willing to race again in the SRX Series should they invite her. Paul Tracy's going, please God, no. But Hayley Deegan is going, yes. Let's just say that Paul Tracy and Hayley Deegan had a couple of run-ins. That's putting it nicely.
Do you want to bet that Riley Herbst's seat is just a little bit warm?
One would think. You know, Riley, granted, he has done very well over the last, 2-3 races and launched himself into 12th in the Xfinity Series points. But you know what? Considering it's Stewart Haas Racing, considering this is the same team that last year was competing for a title and won, how many races? Did Chase Briscoe win? 7?
Yeah. Yep.
And Riley Herbst was a highly touted kid coming over to Stewart Haas Racing from Joe Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
And until the last 2 or 3 races has really done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm thinking that the wick got turned up under the seat of one Riley Herbst with this particular bit of information.
A little bit.
Then there's Ross Chastain. Chastain slated to drive for Nice Motorsports in the number 45 truck. However, because of his Cup Series requirements, he has removed himself from that truck for this weekend. But the thing about it is you actually don't have to change the last name over the door of the 45 because the guy getting in Ross's place is Ross's brother, Chad. Chad has zero experience in ARCA or top-level NASCAR competition, but he does come in from the Southern Pro-Am Series. How much can Chad bring from the Southern Pro-Am Series mostly and use it in the Camping World Truck Series race at Watkins Glen?
Nothing.
There you go. That'll be fun to watch.
Nothing. Nada. Zilch.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into some base NASCAR news here. Delta variant of the COVID-19 seems to have everyone freaking out.
Yay!
NASCAR's responded by bringing back a limited, I use that term very carefully because it's true, it is a limited mask mandate. Beginning this weekend at Watkins Glen, anyone that's in an enclosed area of a track must be wearing a mask, regardless of your vaccination status. NASCAR defines enclosed areas as these: restrooms, haulers, buildings, the infield care center, race control, and suites. If you're in the grandstands, you're fine. As for those grandstands, even New York's embattled Governor Andrew Cuomo, that's another story altogether, and I'm not getting into it, he's lifted all restrictions in his state, which means no tracks currently on the 2021 schedule have any real restrictions on attendance for any of their events. This was NASCAR's decision, they said, after having consulted with their physicians, bringing back the mask mandate. Anyone remaining outdoors at a NASCAR event will not have to wear a mask, provided that they are self-responsible about respecting social distancing around people that they do not know. You trying to wrap your mind around this one, man?
I'm trying to wrap my mind around that last statement that they made. Provided they are self-responsible about respecting social distancing around people that they don't know. Do you want to tell me if there's going to be adequate social distancing at Talladega come October the 3rd in the year of our Lord 2021?
With
no.
90+ thousand people in the grandstands?
No.
Because I got a lot of friends, but I'm sorry, I don't have 90,000.
Not even close. Even though we're going to be in our own little private suite, as we call it.
Where we're going to have to wear a mask. Yeah,
I don't think that'll happen.
Once I'm on the microphone, sorry, not having the mask on.
I will be breathing too, so.
Yeah. Then there's Eddie Gossage, and this is a loss. There's no doubt about it. With Eddie Gossage leaving his post as the first and to date only general manager at Texas Motor Speedway, he announced earlier this year his pending retirement. SMI was tasked with finding the big shoes that needed to be filled. They think they have his name. Love this name, Rob Rampage. Can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't.
He's been a counsel for the track since 2013, along with other duties. He is a lawyer by trade. That's even better. A lawyer named Rampage. Yes. Anyway, Rampage, a lawyer by trade, comes to Texas Motor Speedway via a practice in Dallas, Texas. Then SMI officials are also working on this situation up at historic Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. SMI CEO Marcus Smith talked to NBCSports.com, said that conversations continue with Nashville city officials about future plans for the track, and even though the letter of intent submitted to them expired on July 31st, both sides have agreed to continue talking regardless of the expiration date having gone by. That being said, Smith is confident that things are going to continue, and an agreement will ultimately be reached, allowing SMI to begin to bring NASCAR races back to the famed track and have to perform needed upgrades to the facility. Smith feels that, though, that the soonest that NASCAR racing could take place at Nashville Fairgrounds, and I agree with him on this, would be the 2023 season. The deal that is currently understood to be under negotiations would have SMI making and paying for the bulk of the renovations, which include repaving the track, expanding the grandstands, and building sound barriers, because there are neighbors who seem to ignore the fact that when they moved into the neighborhood, they moved into the neighborhood with an active racetrack in it.
And they can't watch TV unless it's on volume 10.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Or find Spinal Tap's amp and crank it up to 11. However, SMI could not control the track, would not control the track. They would only be the track promoter for specific races, those that feature any of the top levels of NASCAR, I presume, from ARCA up.
is correct.
I can guarantee from the Camping World Truck Series up, I presume from ARCA up.
And with a track repaved somewhere, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is losing his mind.
Yeah. It's kind of like the track repave over at Atlanta. The drivers weren't necessarily happy about it, but we were there just a couple of years ago.
I'm telling you, when they put safer barriers up at this place, that's going to take away a solid 5 feet.
Fast, but it's going to be fast.
It'll be blazing quick.
But like we were a couple of years ago, a few years ago, we went to Nashville Fairgrounds. We had the chance to go out there, and we had the chance to kind of see what the track conditions were like. It's old, kind of cracking.
Mm-hmm.
It needs a repave.
Yeah.
So here it comes. And then the final note, as we lead into our conversation time coming up after the break.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to the top of the show, we teased this. I know a show that will run Sunday night in the midnight hour on the channel out of Birmingham, My 68. It's a channel that John and I know well. We work there. This is a show that counts down the top 10 sports families. And I'm not going to give the entire thing away for you if you want to watch it. But of the 10 families in sports, it featured 2, and only 2, racing families. In at number 10, the Hill family, Graham and Damon Hill. Graham winning the vaunted Triple Crown of the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, and the 24 Hours Le Mans. No other driver's been able to do that to date. In at number 6, they counted Dale and Dale Earnhardt Jr. That got me to thinking. Who would be the best racing families? And I'm not talking about just NASCAR. We could do 10 racing families in NASCAR alone. Let's make it more difficult. Yeah, we amped that up. Who are the best racing families regardless of racing series? And considering Earnhardt at 6 and Hill at 10, did that show get that order right? In other words, did Matt and I include the Earnhardts? Did Matt and I include the Hills? And did we put them in that order? So Matt and I have compiled our own lists and the reasons for choosing them in the slots that we did. And when we come back, we will start it by mentioning those that just missed the cut, our honorable mentions. That's next, right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
This report is service of the Area Agency on Aging.
Like I said, I'm just giving mine in ranking order.
That's fine. We're going to go 10 to 1. We'll do like I said, we'll do honorable mentions first. I'll let you do 10 to 6. I'll do my 10 to 6, and then we'll trade off. You 5, me 5, you 4, me 4, and so on.
Problem buying your groceries and you need help, call the Alabama Area Agency on Aging.
When I go honorable mentions, I'm going low to high.
Okay, I'm just going in alphabetical.
All about snack.
That's fine.
It's a food stamp program.
We each have our own ways. It's all good. There's no wrong. Oh.
Which one of the buttons on the board is one that chimed into the phone? Oh, here.
He knows it. If John can't make it, I can walk you through it.
Are we ready for the 5:30 pickup?
Cam's Courier Service's newest hire delivered his resignation.
Hey, Ray,
She now needs next day shipping on a new driver.
all these boxes here, are they ingoing or are they outgoing?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
Where am I going?
Indeed you do.
Get down this, I know what I'm like a hot
Easy serving quality candidates whose resumes and Indeed respond to jobs. Visit Indeed.com/credit for your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's your girl Angela here. And if you're looking for a great low rate and nearly 60 years of quality coverage, take a closer look at the General. They offer no down payments, flexible payment options, and they give you the ability to use your and the quality coverage you deserve and prices you deserve. Call 800 General or go to general.com to get your hassle-free quote today. Some restrictions apply.
I keep hearing her voice, and I think she's got good content, but her voice is horrible.
Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
So again, if you're up late tomorrow night, and I'm talking about in the midnight hour, on Channel 68, My 68 out of Birmingham, We're going to be running a couple of sports-related shows. One of them counts down the top 10 sports families, of which they only mentioned 2, the Hill family and the Earnhardt family, at 10 and 6, respectively. And it just got me to thinking, would I put them in the order that they're in? And I thought to myself, no, I don't think I would. So I thought, Matt, we got ourselves a conversation topic.
Let's do it.
So we begin with Matt and his honorable mentions, the families that just missed making the top 10.
I'm going to go with my honorable mentions in low to high. I had 6 honorable mentions. So this would be 16 to 11.
You beat me by 2.
I'm going to go with, as an honorable mention, in 16th spot, the Brabham family.
Okay.
15th.
Jeff, Jack. It's a good family.
I went with the Kalita family.
Okay. See where you're going there.
14th. I went with the Fittipaldi.
Nice.
13th. I went with the Wallace family.
Okay.
12th. I went with the Bush family.
Okay.
And in 11th, just barely missing my top 10. And I mean by, if it's not 11th, this is really like 10.1. The Walther family.
Okay. You and I agree on 2 of those. I went in alphabetical order, so no particular order here. Started off with the Keselowski family. Start off with you start off with Bob. Bob, the dad, had no wins, but he was one of the initial drivers in the Truck Series. He was one of the guys that helped kind of formulate what we now call the Camping World Truck Series.
Sure.
Since then, you have Brad. Brad, him in just the Cup Series alone, has 35 Cup Series wins and a title. That doesn't count the wins that he's got from the Xfinity Series, the wins, and the fact that he owned for a while a Camping World Truck Series team. And then you got Brian. Brian has no wins, but he's been thought of well enough to race in all 3 top NASCAR levels.
Mm-hmm.
Next up for me, just missing, the Mears family. You got Roger Mears, you got Rick Mears. Rick Mears, 26 wins, including an Indy 500 win and an IndyCar title. And then you got Casey Mears, who has a Cup and an Xfinity Series win to his credit. You got the Wallace family, and this one was close for me because, let's face it, Rusty's got 55 Cup Series wins and a Cup Series title. Mike Wallace has 4 Xfinity Series wins and 5 Truck Series wins. And son of Rusty, Steven, no wins, but did race in the upper NASCAR levels. It was close. But I would agree with Matt on this. This was close for me because Darrell Waltrip is a hero of mine, going all the way back to my youth. But because it's just Darrell and Michael, they get honorable mention. They stay outside the top 10. Darrell, 84 Cup Series wins, a Daytona 500, and 3 Cup Series titles to his credit, not to mention all the other stuff that he's done. Michael, 4 Cup Series wins, 2 Daytona 500 wins, an Xfinity and a Truck Series win, which marks him as one of only, give or take, 30 drivers in history to have a win in Cup, Xfinity, and Truck in his career.
Yep.
Those are the honorable mentions, the ones that just missed. Matt starts off from 10 to 6.
10th. I went to a series that probably, I'm going to say you didn't go to.
Okay.
I went to the dirt racing world.
Yeah. No, you're actually incorrect on that. I did touch on the dirt racing world.
Okay. All right. I stand corrected. I went with the Kinzer family at number 10.
Okay.
That's Steve, Mark, and Steve's son, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
9th, I actually went with the Mears family.
Okay.
For 9th. 8th, I went over to NHRA with the Force family.
Okay.
7th, and here's where a debate may come in. The Allison family.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that would put them higher. I know it. We're in Alabama, and they're the Alabama gang. We get it.
6th, I was thinking there was going to be a little bit of a loophole in this one, but when you think about it, one of these gentlemen actually did drive in part of his career. The Wood family.
Mm-hmm. I give a lot of consideration to the Wood family, and I think if I had put them in there, I would have put them in as honorable mention. Yep. Mainly because of the lack of wins as far as drivers are concerned.
Right.
I get what they've done, and there's no arguing what they've done as an ownership group.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
In at number 10 for me is one of the families that made your honorable mention list, the Kalita family. Connie Kalita, a successful owner in and of himself, but as a driver, 10 NHRA wins. Doug, 49 NHRA wins and 21 USAC wins. And Scott, 18 NHRA wins and 2 NHRA titles. Kind of hard to overlook that.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with, at number 9, a family that you didn't even mention, not even in your honorable mentions. The Burton family. Ward's got 5 Cup Series wins and a Daytona 500. Jeff has 21 Cup Series wins. Jeb is working his way up through the ranks with an Xfinity and a Truck Series win to his credit. And Harrison's working his way up, and so far he's got 4 Xfinity Series wins to his credit. And at number 8, another name that, at least to this point, you have not mentioned. The Schumacher family. Michael, obviously the dominant one, 91 F1 wins and 7 titles. Ralph, his brother, 6 Formula One wins. And Mick, who, yeah, he's just begun his F1 career, but he's already got an F2 title to his credit. Then there's the guys that he started off with, and he said, I wasn't going to touch. The Kinzer family coming at number 7 for me.
I didn't say you wouldn't touch it. I said I don't think you may have touched it.
And I even have him ranked higher than Matt did, and Matt's the Dirt Series driver. And the reason why, not only is there Steve. Steve could be in practically every Motorsports Hall of Fame that there is. 580 World of Outlaws wins alone.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 World of Outlaws titles. But his dad, Bob, never got the same amount of publicity because he was mostly just doing short tracks in varying divisions. He never really made a big name in the World Outlaws or anything that was more on a at least regional, if not national basis. But Bob is credited with well over 400 short track victories. And Craig, Steve's son, no NASCAR, short NASCAR career, no wins, but still got up there. Something to be said for that. And then there's another NHRA name. Number 10, I talked about the Kalita family. At number 6 for me is the Force family. John, 153 NHRA wins and counting, plus 16 funny car titles. And since he's still racing, we'll say and counting. Courtney, before she retired, 12 NHRA wins. Brittany, still racing, 10 wins. The other daughter, who has now moved up within the ranks of John Force Racing and out of the car, is Ashley. She has 1 win. But that 1 win is notable because she beat her dad. Gotta mention that.
Yeah.
To number 5.
My family in position 5 is the Schumacher family.
Okay. That's why I said he hadn't mentioned him yet.
I went with Schumacher at 5.
Okay. Again, 91 wins and 7 titles for Michael, 6 F1 wins for Ralph, and again, Mick with an F2 title. It's hard to argue that. I put the Allison family at number 5. Bobby's got 84 Cup Series wins, a Daytona 500, and a Cup Series title. Donnie racked up 10 Cup Series wins, not to mention whatever they did in other series. And then there's Davey, 19 Cup Series wins before his life was tragically cut short. God only knows what he could have done had he stayed alive. Sorry to be disrespectful to the memory of Dale Earnhardt, and quite frankly, to Jeff Gordon. But it could be argued if Davey had lived, much like Tim Richmond, had he lived, Dale probably wouldn't have 7 titles, and Jeff probably wouldn't have 4.
Whew. Probably not.
And then there's Clifford, who was killed really before his NASCAR career even got going. But let's face it, racing is in their blood. And there's young Jacob Allison, who is running late models in and around the Southeast right now.
Yep.
So he gets a mention in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to number 4.
Number 4, I went with Earnhardt.
Okay.
I went with Earnhardt, number 4.
All right.
4, 3, 2, and 1 ranking-wise was really super hard for me.
you practically could have put their names on separate pieces of paper, thrown them up in the air, and
caught 'em.
said, okay, this order works just like that order works and that order. I get you.
Agreed.
For number 4, I put the Unser family in there. The father, the patriarch, Jerry, records are tough to find, but yes, he was a good racer in his time, and he taught Al and Bobby all that they knew, and Al walked in with 39 IndyCar wins and 3 titles. Bobby, 35 IndyCar wins and 2 titles. And it continued on with Al Jr., 34 IndyCar wins and 2 titles. And then there's Robbie and Al the third, either as accomplished in IndyCar or the Road to Indy Feeder Series, but racers amongst themselves as well. Hard to argue. Position number 3.
Position number 3 for me goes to the Unser family.
Okay.
I went with them third.
Just gave you the resume, which, again, hard to argue.
Right.
Third position for me went to, and this was tough, I gave it to the Andretti family. Mario Andretti, the legend, 12 Formula One race wins and a Formula One title, 21 IndyCar wins, including an Indy 500, and 3 IndyCar titles. And oh, by the way, he raced a little bit of NASCAR and claimed a Daytona 500 title. Then you drop to his son, Michael, 42 IndyCar wins and an IndyCar title. Marco racking up 2 IndyCar wins of his own. And then there's John Andretti, who racked up 2 Cup Series wins and an IndyCar Series win as well. Not a bad family.
Nope.
To deal with at all. To number 2. I think we're going to agree on number 1. I'm just saying.
Number 2 for me was actually the Andretti family.
Okay.
I went with them second.
All right. Where'd you put the Earnhardts? 5th?
I put them 4th.
4th. I put him 2nd. And I go back to the patriarch. I go to Ralph. While he had no NASCAR wins, he knew how to take care of his stuff, and he taught Dale a lesson that might have taken a little while to learn. Because, let's face it, he was a little bit of a hothead when he first came onto the NASCAR circuit, but he ultimately realized you take care of your equipment, it'll last you, and you'll win races.
It will.
Ralph was a good teacher. And Dale, before he ultimately was taken away from us too early, racked up 76 Cup Series wins with 7 titles, including 1 Daytona 500. Carrie, who ended up racing at the top levels of NASCAR, and Kelly, who was a racer in her own, but now is a co-owner of Junior Motorsports, which brings us to the other co-owner of Junior Motorsports, Dale Jr., who in his time racked up 26 Cup Series wins, along with 2 Daytona 500 wins and 2 Xfinity Series titles, not to mention the number of wins he had there. All of that led me to put the Earnhardt family in at number 2. Number 1. Let me think.
This is pretty much a no-brainer.
And I am amazed that this Sports Family television show didn't even mention this family.
The Petty family.
Bingo.
They were outright number 1 for me.
Here's why they're number 1. The patriarch is Lee Petty. Go all the way back to Lee. That's right, Richard's dad. 1 memorable Daytona 500 win, photo finish, and 56 Cup Series wins altogether. The son turns around and comes in and goes, "Oh yeah? Watch this, Dad." Hold my beer. I'm going to win 200 Cup Series races and claim no less than 7 Cup Series titles, as we call them today. And among his 200 wins, 7 Daytona 500 wins. Then there's Maurice Petty, a race and championship winning crew chief and engine builder in and of himself. I could go for a while on his particular resume. We'll just leave it at that. Kyle Petty comes in with 8 Cup Series wins. And then there's Adam. Adam, according to Kyle, was set to be at least as good as Richard was, and certainly a fine shot better, as Kyle noted, than he himself was. Could you imagine what might have been had Adam Petty lived.
It's kind of one of those same scenarios of what might have been if Davey Allison was still around.
Or Tim Richmond. Yeah. A lot of people who were taken from us too early. So, yes, in other words, we think that the TV show got it wrong. But again, judge for yourself in the midnight hour tomorrow night, if you choose to, on Channel 68. And we'll see what you think. I will not give away the number one, but we'll say certainly that it's the sport that they compete in is a far cry from the racing world.
I will be judging the softness of my pillow that time of night.
Yeah, I understand. I probably will too, from Indianapolis, because that's where I'll be. I'll be on the show next weekend, cell phone towers willing, via phone. Hopefully you will be able to join us then, as Matt and John will be in studio, as per usual, holding down the fort. Y'all have a great week, a safe week here in the Southeast. Probably a hot week, so whatever you got planned, if it's outside, do what Lewis Hamilton didn't. Hydrate! Yep, I'm going to continue to harp on that one, Lewis. You should know better. You're a 7-time champion yourself with 99 Formula One wins. You ought to know about hydrating. Just saying. Hydrate. Stay cool as best you can, and we'll be back this time next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.